Can we describe you as a defensive manager?
It's 8! It's 8 and it's absolute.
How do you describe yourself as a person?
You can ask my assistant coaches. If they have a chance, score a goal directly, then do it.
Barcelona's most important signing wasn't any player from the transfer window, but a crazy German tactician who doesn't give a damn about defense. Hansi Flick has turned Barcelona into Europe's most exciting football experiment, with his high risk, high reward, and absolutely no breaks approach. And Barcelona have been flying this season. This is the story of a man who'd rather lose 5-4 than win 1-0. Here is how a crazy German manager is conquering Europe. It has been a rough couple of years for Barca. They've had to say goodbye to their greatest player ever, have gone through a financial crisis, and even bade farewell to the legend Xavi, who helped put this current team together. Naturally, they were supposed to go through a period of rebuilding after losing Xavi. However, today, we are now 31 games into the La Liga season, and Barcelona are comfortably top of the table. They are also in the quarter-final of the Champions League, and already in the Copa del Rey final. They're not just through, they are also heavily favoured to win at least 2, if not all 3, of these trophies. No one saw this coming. Absolutely no one. Let's be honest, Barcelona was never supposed to be here, at least not so soon. They were expected to be a decent team, a challenger to Real Madrid, maybe good for a domestic cup run, but a treble? Or even dominating the best teams in Europe? Nobody saw that coming, especially not under a manager who had just failed miserably with the German national team.
The German FA has decided following a board meeting that national coach Hansi Flick, as well as his 2 assistant coaches Marcus Sorgand and Danny Roll, are relieved from their duties with immediate effect.
This is the first time a German head coach has been fired. The first manager to be sacked in the history
That's crazy.
of the Federation. That tells you the state of things and how dire they saw the situation to be, because this is unprecedented.
And yet, here we are. However, in less than 8 months, Hansi Flick has turned Barcelona into his high-stakes masterpiece. One where defense is an afterthought and attack is the only language spoken. Under Flick, Barcelona has gone from a team in transition to a ruthless machine. They aren't just competing, they're overwhelming opponents. Real Madrid, Atletico, Bayern, all have felt the heat of this relentless pressing monster. This isn't Xavi's Barca. This isn't even Guardiola's calculated tiki-taka. This is something entirely different and completely insane. But how did we get here? How did a team that looked lost just less than a year ago suddenly become one of Europe's most dangerous and exciting sides? More importantly, how did Hansi Flick go from a failed Germany stint to becoming Barcelona's most important signing since Messi left? To answer that, we need to understand the man, the philosophy, and the absolute chaos strategy that helps him thrive. I'm sure you remember that German team that destroyed Brazil 7-1 in the World Cup semi-final. But what you might have missed is that Hansi Flick was a crucial part of the coaching team that made it happen. But it's not as simple as that. Give me a second, and you'll understand why. Before he became the mastermind behind Brazil's greatest humiliation, he was just another player trying to make it in football. Like most players, he wanted to play for a really long time, maybe even become a legend. Unfortunately, this didn't happen for him. Flick wasn't a Messi or Ronaldo type of player, but he was very hard-working. No-nonsense midfielder, playing for Bayern Munich in the late 80s. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't a superstar, he just got the job done. Unfortunately, he was plagued with a lot of injuries, and by the age of 28, his body had given up on him. His playing career was over. For most, that would have been the end, but for Flick, it was just the beginning. Because if he couldn't dominate as a player, he was determined to do it from the sidelines. But here's the thing, Flick wasn't like other ex-players. He didn't just walk onto a big job because of his name. Instead, he studied and dissected the game. And when it was finally time for him to coach, Flick started from the bottom. His first years were spent coaching TSG Hoffenheim, winning the league and gaining promotion to the Regionalliga Süd in the first season of the club. But he was later sacked for failing to make the Bundesliga 2. Instead of moving on to another club, he decided to continue watching, learning, and perfecting his philosophy. In 2006, the perfect opportunity to learn from one of the best presented itself. When Germany came calling, Hansi Flick answered. It was an opportunity to learn from Joachim Löw, For 8 years, Flick worked as Joachim Löw's assistant with the German national team. But make no mistake, he wasn't just a background figure. He was very crucial to how Germany pressed like animals. He was the one who trained them to be ruthlessly efficient in set pieces. And yes, he was the tactical mastermind behind the infamous 7-1 destruction of Brazil. Because, as most of the players recall, right before the game, when Joachim Löw was interested in having them train extra, they didn't like the idea. However, when Flick had a go at them, upon seeing the ideas in his playbook, they were down for it almost immediately. Now, of course, Joachim Löw was credited for that game, but it was right then that Hansi Flick secured his place in the hearts of many, and soon enough, it was his time to prove that he could do it. By 2019, Flick had disappeared from the spotlight, working at his former club Hoffenheim as a sporting director. But then, Bayern Munich was collapsing. Under Niko Kovac, they were slow, predictable, and falling apart. And when Kovac was sacked, Bayern had no one else. So, they turned to Flick, who was his assistant at this point. Not necessarily because they believed in him, but because they needed a temporary fix. They thought he'd just steady the ship until they found someone better. However, in just a few months, Flick turned Bayern from a struggling side into the most dominant team in world football. During his time, Bayern Munich dominated games and annihilated teams. The most memorable one being against his current team, Barcelona, in an 8-2 disgrace for the Blaugrana side. With Hansi Flick, Bayern won every single trophy possible, something only one other team in history had done, Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. But shortly after his stint at Bayern, he took up the job at Germany, hoping to bring them back to their heydays, which he was part of creating. Unfortunately, it was a second dance that never worked out. So just 9 months after his service with the team and a series of horrible results, he was sacked. His availability, however, soon became a blessing that Barcelona are reaping today.
And we were invited for a match here in Barcelona. And I said, okay, one day I want to coach here.
Hansi Flick's philosophy is simple. Press until your lungs explode. Attack until your legs give out. And if the opponent scores, score 2 more. Before Hansi Flick, Barca was known for their tiki-taka style of football, which emphasizes short passing, possession, and quick movement. However, under Flick, they've been playing with a level of intensity that makes even the most fearless teams sweat. And the craziest part? He refuses to change, no matter the risk. So, how exactly does Flick's chaotic tactic work? And more importantly, can it actually lead Barcelona back to glory? If you've watched Barcelona this season, you've probably noticed something. They play extremely high up the pitch. And when I say high, I mean it looks borderline reckless. Flick's defensive line is practically standing on the halfway line, constantly trying to catch opponents offside. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy that works, until it doesn't. Take that Atletico Madrid Copa del Rey game, for example. Barcelona was leading 4-2 in the dying minutes. Flick could have told his team to sit deep, control the game, and see out the win. But no, he doubled down. The high line stayed, Atletico pushed forward. 2 quick goals later, 4-4. And this isn't a one-time thing. Just look back on the games against Osasuna or Celta Vigo. These are teams that have exploited his aggressive setup to punish Barcelona in shocking ways. This is not to say he does not prioritize defense. They do it differently than most teams. Let me explain. The first phase of Barcelona's defense starts from their attack, and Barca's attack doesn't start in midfield. It begins with Pau Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez, 2 defenders who, under Flick, have become the true architects of Barcelona's build-up. This season alone, Cubarsí has completed 1,682 passes, the highest in La Liga. And just right behind him is Inigo Martinez, with 1,508 passes completed. Short or long, high-risk passes are something Flick has instilled in his team. Instead of relying on midfielders to dictate the game, Barcelona plays through their centre-backs. When opponents press, Cubarsí and Martinez bypass them entirely, stretching the game with long diagonal switches or breaking lines with short, precise passes. And when the ball finally reaches midfield, that's where Marc Casado steps in. The 20-year-old has become the team's silent weapon, sitting at the base of midfield, always available, always moving. He doesn't get the flashy headlines, but he's the glue holding it all together. His 90.1% pass accuracy ranks amongst the highest in the league. When Barcelona needs defensive security, his 2 to 4 interceptions per game ensure that Flick's high-risk systems doesn't crumble at the first sign of danger. But while Casado or Frenkie de Jong keep things stable, Pedri is the one making things happen. For years, he was seen as the heir to Barcelona's traditional midfield, a controller, a tempo setter, a pass before the assist type of player. But under Flick, Pedri has evolved. Now he's creating 4.5 shot chances per game, threading passes through defensive lines and adding an edge to his play that Barcelona desperately lacked last season. It's no surprise then that Barcelona's goal output has skyrocketed. But these numbers do not skyrocket as they have, if not for the truly special attack that Hansi Flick put together this season. In fact, it's all thanks to him that Raphinha discovered his best position on the right. For years, Raphinha was seen as just another tricky winger, or a good dribbler, a solid creator but nothing exceptional. But Hansi Flick saw something different. Instead of keeping Raphinha isolated on the right wing, Flick has transformed him into a free player. Raphinha now floats between the lines, arriving in dangerous areas unnoticed, creating chaos. His movements have become calculated rather than instinctive, and what is the result? A direct impact on the score sheet. And then there's Lewandowski. He was written off by many who said he was supposedly past his prime. They seem to forget he was a monster under Hansi Flick, and so far he is La Liga's top scorer. The numbers speak for themselves, but more than the stats, it's the way he plays now. Dropping deep, linking up play, pressing from the front. This is the Lewandowski that won everything at Bayern under Flick, and now he's leading Barcelona's charge once again. So, here's the question, is this sustainable? Can Barcelona keep up this level of intensity, game after game, week after week?
I give a lot of credit to Hansi Flick on the job that he's done since he's taken over at Barcelona. It's really remarkable. I mean, getting results consistently in 2025 is ridiculous. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's 20 victories in 2025. Yes. He seems to like this year.
On the face of it, it looks like Barcelona has been giving away a lot of possession, or even taking too many risks. However, that is far from the truth. Yes, there's still a massive risk involved, but the current Blaugrana team has something that Xavi's team lacked: cohesiveness. Under Xavi, Barca's system worked for a while until it didn't. Simply because Xavi was too honest. After his dream first season, winning the La Liga trophy, Xavi's team began to fall apart, and he didn't know how to keep it together. He started blaming his performances on the team injuries, the club's financial situation, and even, at some point, the referees and so on. He quite simply was losing it. However, compared to him, Hansi Flick has a different approach to getting the best out of his players. Hansi Flick does not complain. Quite literally, he rarely gives even as much as a reaction, even when his team is injured or performing poorly. Instead, he goes back behind closed doors to instill the German discipline for which he is known. Also, he encourages his players to take more risks in passing. However, this approach could be a double-edged sword, because when Barcelona is in control, they're terrifying. Though when the teams beat the press, the results are horrifying. The Atletico game proved it, the Celta Vigo game proved it, and even Real Madrid had moments where they nearly tore through it. The reality is, his system will lead Barcelona to glory, but only if he's willing to adapt sometimes. So, can Flick adapt? Or will his stubbornness cost him everything? Do let us know what you think in the comments. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification button, because if you thought this was wild, wait until you see the video on your screen right now. See you in a sec.